Alright, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum once again. And this is Bara, and welcome to our very first episode of our new show with Purify Your Gaze, Kickstart Your Recovery. I'm truly happy and excited to be able to share this show with you. And I'd like to, inshallah, introduce the show to you. First of all, what's the idea of this show, and a little bit about myself before we dive into the topic for today, inshallah. So, Bismillah. I just make sure that the video here is set up properly. Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, so our show, Kickstart Your Recovery, I will be sharing with you, inshallah, power tips to help you make leaps towards breaking free, inshallah. So before we jump in, I wanted to let you know that if you'd ever like to catch any of the replays for this show, if you miss an episode or if you joined the live show a little bit late, then just go to our website, purifyyourgaze.com/kickstart, and you'll find everything related to this show on that webpage, inshallah. Now, myself, I'm an enrollment advisor for Purify Your Gaze, and when I joined Purify Your Gaze, the Purify Your Gaze team, as an enrollment advisor, it became my job to help people who are looking to get help with their struggle with unwanted sexual behaviors. However, they didn't necessarily know what to do next. And since I've joined, I've had the opportunity to interact with hundreds of people, and I found a few things in common that many of the people who reached out had. Now, the people who reached out generally faced one of three obstacles to them really kickstarting their recovery and starting to make steady progress. The first is desperation. Many people reach out and they're full of shame, and they're just desperate because they look back and they see that it's been 10 years, it's been 15 years since they've been struggling, and they really doubt whether it's possible for them to change. Now, the second obstacle is indifference. In other words, some people, they don't take serious action to change because they realize that they have a problem. However, they might not realize how big of a problem it is, and it doesn't seem serious enough for them to take serious action towards change. The third obstacle that people face is inaction. In other words, they might feel that change is possible. They might feel that change is important. However, when it comes to what should I do, right, they don't necessarily know what do I do in order to start to experience change. How do I start? Now, if you're facing any of these three obstacles, then there's a good chance that if you look deep down, you might find that there's not a lot of hope down there. And because any one of these obstacles makes it very difficult to have hope. And the reality of the matter is that without hope, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to take action. Without hope, it's impossible to take action. So my objective as enrollment advisor and my objective with this show became to help you to go from desperation, indifference, or inaction to igniting that spark of hope within you. And that spark is the very thing that will help you to kickstart your recovery, inshallah. And in this show, I seek to compile the very best tips and advice that we have here at Purify Your Gaze to help you kickstart your recovery. So let us go ahead and get started with our very first power tip, which is embark on the journey of recovery. How to adopt the right mindset that will produce the best decisions which will lead to lasting change, inshallah. So to start us off, I want to share a story of a member who joined Purify Your Gaze some time ago, several years ago. And he completed the 5-week training course that we were offering at that time, expecting that by the end of the 5 weeks, he would have overcome his problem. His problem would be solved. He watched the videos, he took very studious notes, and he completed all of the exercises. Yet, 5 weeks later, his problem was not yet solved, and he was still relapsing. He felt strong emotions of betrayal. His understanding was that putting in this recovery work for 5 weeks would bring him to his desired destination of being free, yet here he was being told that there is still much, much hard work that remains to be done. Deep down in this member, there's a conflict taking place. He never planned on embarking on the journey of recovery, right? A journey of hard soul work, of asking difficult questions and uncovering uncomfortable truths. It was a frightening idea for him, but he bit the bullet. He decided to embark on this journey. He signed up for coaching and went through deep changes within himself that he had never anticipated. The result of him choosing to embark on this journey is that now, years later, he is not only sexually abstinent for longer than ever before, but he's also worked to improve his relationship with his family, with the deeper healing that took place. He's also wrestled through rough patches in his career, and in order to embark on a whole new career path that is much more fulfilling. And he's also embarked on a journey to memorize the Quran, which for a long time had been just a dormant dream for him. So this member has embarked on the journey of recovery. He's decided that he's on a mission to heal himself. Now, what does it matter if you adopt this type of mindset about your struggle, right? The answer is that it's important to look at your situation as a journey of recovery, of healing, of growth, so that you can have the humility and the focus that will enable you to take actions that will lead you to steady, sustained, lasting growth. Now, let us be clear about one thing here. Most people do not think of their struggle with the sexual behavior in this way. On the contrary, most people hold on to some other belief about their struggle. It may be that, number one, this is a phase and it's going to pass with time. Or their belief may be, number two, that the behavior itself is really the only problem in their life. Or it's the only problem that they're facing. And overcoming the behavior or stopping the behavior will solve all of their problems. Or the third belief is that their problem isn't that bad compared to other people. And certainly, not bad enough to embark on some type of magical journey of recovery and healing. And for a lot of people who are struggling, the words healing and recovery are not even really part of their vocabulary. But the reason I'm here with you today on this episode is to ask, should they be? Right? And if you have any of the above 3 beliefs that I described about your struggle, then my sincere advice to you is to pause and ask the question, am I looking at the situation in a way that's truthful and accurate? Because the result of having an inaccurate map about your situation is that it will be very difficult to make steady progress toward your destination. If you don't embark on the journey of healing, then you risk not only staying stuck in your struggle, but also there's a possibility of regressing deeper into addiction. And I'd like to share an example that shows how it's possible for someone to think for years that things are going in the right direction. But in reality, they were only getting worse. I was deeply touched by this email that I received from one of our subscribers. He emailed us at Purify Your Gaze, and he described his story that after embracing Islam several years ago, he did a lot of work in order to let go and leave behind him kind of the habits that he had before embracing Islam. And he made tremendous progress, and he was able to stop every single one of the bad habits that he wanted to overcome, except for one, which was watching pornography. Still, he was able to stay away for weeks or even months on end. However, as the years passed, things got worse. And it went for him from relapsing during Ramadan, which is something that he hadn't done before, to failing subjects in school, to missing prayers for days on end, until most recently he fell into something that hadn't happened before, which is relapsing during the daylight in Ramadan and watching pornography. And this is what he shares. He says, "I don't see any hope, and I don't know how to do this. I've been trying for years. I used to be able to stop for weeks and months, but now it's not working anymore." And again, I want to welcome everybody who's joining us. I know we have people joining us at different times here. So welcome to our first episode of Kickstarting Your Recovery. And again, a reminder that feel free to post a comment. I'll be able to actually see your comments if you have any comments or questions while we're on the show here. And you can always catch the replay of all our shows at purifyyourgaze.com/kickstart. So I just shared this story of a subscriber who emailed and talked about how he wasn't expecting things to get worse because it seemed like things were going okay. But as the years passed, things were getting worse and worse. And the stark reality is that the results you get are the results that you seek and pursue. So if you're seeking only superficial change and you're not seeking deep change, then you will not get deep change. And the result of that is that 1 year of struggling can very quickly become 2 years and 5 years and even 15 years. And it's possible for somebody to think that they won't ever, go to a certain extent in their behaviors, but they might actually end up falling into things that they never thought that they would do, like falling into zina. So we've talked so far about why it's important to have the correct mindset about your recovery and having this idea that this is a journey that I'm embarking on. Now let's talk about what this actually means and what does it look like to have the right mindset about your recovery. Now, whenever we face a problem, I'd like to kind of use this framework here in order to talk about this. We have a mental map of the problem and the solution. So you have an idea about the problem that you're facing, where you currently are. We'll call that your point A. And you have an idea about where you'd like to go. That's your point B, your destination, what things will look like when the problem is solved. And if you've got point A and point B, you must also have an idea, how do I get from point A to point B? Now, embarking on the journey of recovery, which is what we're talking about in this episode, requires that you have an accurate map of these three components. And if you don't, then the choices that you make and the things that you focus on and prioritize could potentially cause you to think that you're going in the right direction, but you may actually be regressing deeper and deeper into addiction. So let's start by talking about point A. Now, the problem that some people have when it comes to how they think about their point A, where am I currently, is failing to recognize how serious their situation really is. And to give an example, I was on the phone with a subscriber one day and I asked him, so how long have you been struggling? And he hadn't really thought about this before. So when he answered me, well, but it's been 10 years. Right? He hadn't thought about that before, and this was the first time that it dawned upon him, wow, I've been struggling for 10 years with this. Right? So in that way, you can kind of get a better idea if you think about this of really how severe, what's the magnitude of this situation that I'm in right now. But it's important not only to focus on, how long have I been struggling, but there's another thing also, which is it's important to realize that this struggle does not just live, in your bedroom or on your computer screen. It actually reaches out and touches every area of your life. So to get an accurate understanding of where you are currently, or your point A, it's important to consider what is the impact that this struggle is having on the rest of my life. Now, to give an example about that really shows how thinking about this could be very revealing. Many of those who are struggling, they have a difficulty being honest and open with people around them. And they kind of feel like they're wearing a mask all the time. Now, one thing that can help explore, this question of, what is the reality of the situation that I'm in, is to consider what is the cost. If you're somebody who feels like you can't really show your true self to the people around you, have you ever considered what is the cost of wearing a mask all the time? What is the cost of not being able to be very open and honest and genuine with those who are closest to me, those who deserve, my family members, deserve to receive my all, to receive my heart, yet I find myself wearing a mask in front of them? What is the potential impact that has on my life? Now, I'm not saying this so that you fall deeper into shame or self-loathing, because I don't believe that will help the situation. But I'm saying this, and what is very necessary, and what will help the situation, inshallah ta'ala, is to embrace the absolute truth about where you are right now. Because as long as your heart has not embraced this truth, this reality, although it can be very difficult to embrace, but if you do not embrace it, then there's no way that real progress can be seen. So, in addition to having an accurate idea of where I am currently, it's also important to have an accurate understanding of point B. Where am I going? What is your destination? If you're going to embark on the journey of recovery, you have to know where you're going. And one of the traps that people fall into is that they have a definition of success that actually leads them to stay stuck rather than continually moving forward. And I'll share a little bit about what this definition of success that they have. And to demonstrate that, some questions that I've seen quite commonly in my time here are, how can I know that I've finally broken free, that I'm done? Or when I'm clean, for some time, how can I know that this time is different? Or perhaps, what's the number of days? How much time do I have to make it, without acting out, so that I know that I'm finally done? Now, if you are paying attention, all of these questions are focused on being finished, right? Now, when someone is thinking like this, what do you think their definition of success is? What is it that defines success for these people? I'm just going to take a sip of water before going into that? All right. So people who are asking these questions, their definition of success is that they have a desire to have the satisfaction of saying, I'm done. Now I can move on to something else in my life. And many members join us at Purify Your Gaze seeking this kind of success. They want to be able to say, I'm done. They want to be able to say, this is out of my life. But sooner or later, they come to learn that success is far beyond just being able to say, I'm done. Now, why is this definition problematic? It's because such a person does not have a clear picture of where they're going. And they only have a clear picture of what they're running away from. They're running away from that pain and that shame of feeling like I'm struggling with something that is embarrassing. I'm struggling with something that I'm ashamed of. It's very painful, this idea that I'm somebody who hasn't been able to get their act together. It's a very painful thing. So they know, I just want to get away from that. And that motivation to have something to push you to take action that way is important. However, you have to also know, what are you running towards? You know very well what you're running away from, but what are you running towards? Because if you don't know what your destination is, then how will you know which direction to go? Right? What are you running towards? So what is the larger picture, right? And the answer to that question is that it's all of your aspirations. It's all of the things that you hope for. It's the life that you can imagine in your mind, and it makes you feel very good to imagine living a life that is noble, where you have integrity, where you're thriving, right? That life that you know that you can be living. You have the potential, right? But it just hasn't happened yet, right? That is the destination. So think about your relationships and how they could thrive. Think about your career and how you could excel like never before. Think about your spirituality and how you could achieve heights that you never thought possible. Think about that one thing that you've always dreamt about, but it's always just seemed like it's a little bit out of reach. That is your destination on this journey. So we've talked so far about how to have an accurate map of point A and point B. Our map of the journey is almost done. There's just one thing left. How to get from point A to point B. Excuse me. All right. One of the reasons people struggling with unwanted sexual behavior stay stuck is that they believe, if I'm just able to stop, then my life will be in order again, right? So they have this image of that beautiful destination where their relationships are genuine. There is peace, there is balance in their life, there's integrity. You're able to pursue that very noble goal that always seemed out of reach. And the belief is that the only thing between you and that beautiful destination is this annoying, frustrating problem that keeps on coming up, which is I keep falling back into my old habits. So again, the belief is that I will achieve my aspirations in life when I can stop acting out. But what if it was actually the other way around? What if it was, when I work on building a thriving, balanced, healthy life, then I will no longer feel the need to act out sexually anymore. Right? Abstaining from any destructive behavior does help you to reach your destination or your aspirations of a thriving life. However, the truth of the matter is that just stopping the behavior is one piece of the puzzle. And if you focus on just one piece of the puzzle, when there's so much else that requires your attention and focus, then it can be very difficult, if not impossible, to make steady, lasting change. In order to make lasting change, it should be understood that acting out sexually is most often a symptom of a deeper problem, right? In order to make lasting change, it must be understood that acting out sexually is most often a symptom of a deeper problem. Now, this deeper problem is different for each individual, but ultimately it comes down to this question: what are the patterns or the circumstances that are internal to me or that are external, that are going on in my life, that are keeping me from being happy and fulfilled on a consistent daily basis? All of this is simply to say that there is more to this path than simply deciding to stop the habit. There is much, much more. And I hope that this doesn't discourage you, but rather I hope that it sparks hope within you, because it shows that breaking free is within reach for everyone. Because some people might have approached this problem always thinking, that I'm not able to solve this because, maybe I'm not trying hard enough, or maybe I'm not sincere enough, or maybe I just haven't had enough willpower. And so every time they try, they try to try harder, or make a stronger commitment. But what this shows, right, is that the fact that acting out sexually is usually a symptom of a deeper problem. And I hope that this sparks hope within you, because it shows that, you can, inshallah ta'ala, experience that change. But it just might take, directing your focus a little bit, right? If you're so focused on only the behavior, and now, in order to experience change, I'm telling you, you have to shift your focus a little bit, right? You can do it. It is within your reach, inshallah ta'ala. But you just have to tweak what you're focusing on a little bit and work on things a little bit differently. Here is what one member reflected about this way of looking at his struggle. This is what he says: "When I was going on a head-on collision with myself, using my willpower, trying to stop myself from acting out, that is when I was relapsing. And eventually, when I wasn't relapsing, it wasn't that I took a conscious decision not to relapse, because I had taken that decision 1,000 times and I would still relapse. But when I wasn't relapsing, there was something in my life, some changes that made me not relapse, that made my life different, that made my life more complete. And I had other venues where I was getting the fulfillment from, and I was enjoying life. And I didn't feel the need for it, meaning the need to turn back, to acting out. So when these things, all of these parameters were in place, that is when I wasn't relapsing. It wasn't about making a decision or turning that switch on or off in my mind that now you don't have to relapse, or now you have to remain sober. It doesn't happen that way." So I hope that quote from one of our members helps explain a little bit how looking at this as a journey and realizing that there are different pieces to this puzzle that all need to be worked on, really changes things, and it really changed the outcome for him. So embarking on the journey of recovery, it all starts with having a more accurate map of the journey. It starts with being more honest about where you are currently and embracing the full truth about the cost that this behavior is having in your life. It's about being more imaginative about your destination really drawing a vivid picture of what a life that's worth living really looks like. And it's about expanding your options, about how do you get from point A to point B, and considering what areas of your life you can work on so that you can have greater fulfillment and happiness. All right. So how do you do all of this, right? How do you change your paradigm about recovery? How do you adopt an internal map of what your healing journey really looks like that is more aligned with reality and that will enable you to make steady progress and avoid staying stuck? You can get started, inshallah ta'ala, right now by answering a few questions and really trying to be honest and thoughtful about your answers. I'm going to share a series of short questions. They don't require a long answer right now, right? We just want to get started, that's it. But they do require a little bit of thought and reflection. So my goal with this is to get you to start thinking about these things a little bit more. While you're on the live video with me, I encourage you to start thinking about these questions. You can just jot down on a pen and paper, right? Just a word or two, these answers. Again, just start thinking about these questions with me. If you're watching the replay, then I encourage you to actually pause the video for just a minute, 1 minute per question, right? So that you can have some extra time to think about it. And this exercise, again, is just a starting point in order to help you adopt this mindset about your recovery. All right, here are the 5 questions that if you answer them, inshallah, they will help you to gain new perspective on your struggle and help you to get emotionally ready to really embrace this journey of recovery as your own very special journey. All right. So the first question is, what is one area of your life that is being impacted the most today by your behavior or your struggle? So think of one area in your life that is being impacted the most by your behavior or your struggle, right? And get creative, right? Think about relationships, think about school, career, think about your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Where do you feel that the impact is the most? Question 2, describe how this area of your life is being impacted. And I encourage you, the more details, the better. Again, we're just getting started, I know, but try to paint a vivid picture. Try to paint a vivid picture and be as descriptive as possible. Describe how this area of your life is being impacted by your struggle. All right. Question 3. As you reflect on this, how does it make you feel? The goal here is to connect to the heart, because one of the things that addiction does is that it disconnects people from their heart, right? And so our goal here is to connect to the heart, because you can think of 100 logical reasons why it doesn't make sense to engage in, this unwanted behavior. But if your heart is not connected to that, then it will have no effect, because the heart is where decisions are made. The heart is where action is born, right? So as you reflect on this, how does it make you feel? All right. So, question 4. Now, imagine that you got your problem solved just like that, right? And that now you're living a life where you're not facing this problem anymore. How would this same area of your life look now? So you drew the picture of how it's being impacted, and how perhaps your growth is being stunted, or you're not reaching your full potential in this area of your life. Now, think about if this problem were solved, what would this area of your life look like? Right? How would it thrive? Right? And again, be descriptive. The more details, the better. How would this area of your life look? How would it sound? How would it feel? Right? If you are no longer struggling with your behavior and everything was as you hope for it to be. Right? So that was question 4. Now question 5 is, as you imagine this possibility, how does it make you feel? Again, connect to the heart. Previous question you thought about, well, how do I feel about the cost that this is having on my life? Now you're thinking about, how do I feel about the potential, the possibility of reaching this beautiful destination? Right? Connect to the heart. All right. So remember, all of what we covered today will have the most benefit for you when you take action. So I really urge you, before you leave where you're sitting or whatever you're doing, right, to take a few minutes and answer these 5 questions. Just get started. Our goal for today is just getting started. All right. So as we close this episode off, I want to leave you with words from one of our members who was asked to share, what would you have wanted someone to tell you when you first started off your recovery? One of our members, been with us for some time, asked this question. And this is his answer. He says, I guess for me, the thing I would have wanted somebody to tell me is to sit in front of me, grab me by the shoulders, and say, you're about to face the toughest journey in your life. Right? Sit in front of me, grab me by the shoulders, and say, you're about to face the toughest journey in your life. Now, when you hear this, do you feel that this is true in your case? At this point, do you believe that overcoming your unwanted behaviors is the toughest journey in your life? Now, if this idea makes you uncomfortable or afraid, then I want to let you know that it should, right? It should make you uncomfortable and afraid because it's a very scary idea. And I understand that. However, what will define your success is how you react to that fear. And if you act in the face of fear, then by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, success will be yours. Because no obstacle is too great for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you to overcome. So that fear is warranted, right? Because that represents the magnitude of this task. But it's not too big a task for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you with. So I really appreciate everybody for tuning in today, alhamdulillah, for episode number 1 of our new show, Kickstart Your Recovery. I hope the ideas today helped you to get a little bit of more perspective on how you could change how you think about things so that you're able to make steady progress and make sure you're always moving forward, inshallah ta'ala. And you do so by embarking on the journey, taking this as a journey of recovery, right? And I want to let you know once again that you can catch the replay of this and all episodes on our website, purifyyourgaze.com/kickstart. And I look forward to seeing you for episode number 2, inshallah ta'ala, which will be out in about 2 weeks. I'll be back with you for episode number 2, and we'll start to look at what are the actual steps along this journey, because we haven't looked at that yet, right? And are going to explore how love is the fuel for your healing. A lot of people come to approach their struggle in a way where they feel like they cannot really be compassionate with themselves. And they adopt a very harsh attitude when they fall and they slip. And what we're going to explore in this episode is that it may seem counterintuitive, but it's actually important and essential. And it's actually going to be one of the foundations that you build your recovery on, is to adopt a level of self-love and self-compassion on this journey, inshallah. So I'll see you for episode 2. Thank you again. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.